training 18-year-olds who've been under the care of their family for most of their life to run not from but to the sound of gunfire defies all logic as it goes against human instinct. To overcome that instinct, one of the most intensive psychological reprogramming journeys is required. This is how Marines are made. The journey begins with a bus ride to the boot camp. The recruits must have a lot of mixed emotions. Some are scared, some are excited, some are unsure. But reality hits you very quickly, even before you get off the bus. As soon as the bus arrives at the recruit depot, everything has already changed. Oh, if you look at me right now. Hi, sorry, we're now aboard Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California, Building 622 Receiving Company. From now on, the only words that'll come out of your mouth are yes or no, sir. When somebody asks you a question, do you understand? Yes, sir. Stand up, get off, down, let's go. Receiving is the period before the training. You arrive at boot camp, but for the first week or so, you don't actually train. You're just doing paperwork to get into the federal documentation system. You're basically being prepared for boot camp. But what is important is the way that it's done. The entire time, you're screamed at, hurried, and put under stress. You get screamed at for the most trivial reasons. Heck, you get screamed at for no reason if the drill instructor or DI wishes to scream at you. We'll talk more about the yelling and screaming in the final chapter, but just keep in mind that everything the DI does has a purpose. Everything. And it is very effective. I'm not screaming at so close. Yeah. Just think about it. Within 5 minutes of arriving at the depot, over 200 individuals with no group training at all have been trained by the DIs on how to respond to instructions, take formations, and move as a unit. I gotta say, it's very impressive. The first day's adventures continue with the haircut, which is part of the plan to erode the individuality of the recruits. Individuality makes you feel special, unique, and maybe above someone else. And that's why there is no I in Marine. Okay, you get what I'm saying here. From day one, everyone's the same, and the recruits will spend the next 3 months dressed the same, acting the same, and looking the same. Psychological retraining is a big part of boot camp. You go through the next few days running around from place to place, doing repetitive and seemingly mundane things, not realizing that you haven't slept in 3 days. Completely exhausted and running on adrenaline, you're constantly reminded by the DIs that you're inferior to the real Marines, which guess what? You are not yet a part of. And the combination of physical and mental exhaustion starts to get to you. And then comes Black Friday. No, this Black Friday is very chaotic. The one we're talking about is a shit show, and I mean that respectfully. It may look abusive, but it's one of the steps of making a Marine. Marine recruits go through a number of different training cycles and will learn skills in martial arts, small unit tactics, emergency first aid, and marksmanship, to name a few. By the end of boot camp, all recruits would have received the first belt in Marine Corps Martial Arts Program, a special form of combat martial arts designed by the Marine Corps. More than 2 full weeks are dedicated to marksmanship. During this time, the eyes start to lighten up a little bit so that the recruits can focus on training a bit more. Physical training takes many forms, but generally centers on building instant obedience to orders over the actual exercise. Jump over up there, yikes, jump over up there, run back, run back, run back, run back, run. You need to listen and do what you're told. Do the exercise and get the hell out of the situation. Or you know what? You will be yelled at. Report, sir! Report, oh, do you understand that? Spanish, California! Weapons steering up! Weapons steering up! Let's weapons steering up! Hunter 5297778! As we mentioned earlier, being a Marine is all about being part of the team. And that is where the drill comes in. Modern drills were first utilized by the Greeks in order to maneuver large armies effectively, and to this day, it still has relevance in the sense that it teaches Marines instant obedience to orders. And then comes the final drill, a performance review of recruits' abilities to follow instructions as a unit. During the final drill, the DI is also being evaluated by the Marines who are carrying those clipboards. During boot camp, the recruits face numerous endurance exercises. This includes things like carrying people and objects, running through mud and water, and going through obstacle courses. So toward the end of boot camp, the recruits are physically in good shape, but the mental aspect is what's going to be pushed in this next and final exercise. The largest obstacle that they all must face is one of immense magnitude, and it's appropriately named the Crucible. The Crucible is a 3-day march, totaling about 60 miles. There is very little sleep, little food, and many obstacle courses. The recruits will be carrying about 70 extra pounds of gear on this journey. And then there is the climactic, day-long final march up a mountain called the Reaper and 10 miles downhill before returning to their barracks. Those in the San Diego Recruit Depot call it Mount Mother. You can fill in the blanks. It is uphill all the way to the top. And when they finally reach the top of the mountain, they would have completed the toughest part of the boot camp, getting one step closer to becoming a Marine. It's all about not quitting. These endurance exercises teach recruits to overcome challenges like pain and fatigue. They learn that they can still carry on even when the pain is unbearable. And along the way, the DIs are with them side by side, giving them motivation to get to the top. In some branches of military, like the Marine Corps, there are no communication lines during boot camp. No internet, no phone, no distractions, except for the handwritten letters that the recruits get once a week during their 4-hour time off on Sunday mornings. Does it seem cruel? Well, it doesn't matter. The isolation is necessary for recruits to stay focused. For a few months, the Marine Corps is your entire world. So, what's up with all the yelling? Are the DIs on some sort of a power trip? As we said earlier, everything about boot camp is carefully engineered. Once you enter the military, people are screaming at you all the time. Heads up, we're about to get a bit technical here and introduce the concept of omnidirectional ass chewing. Yes, that is in fact what it's called, and it looks like this. It's basically you trying to make sense of the world around you while a bunch of DIs are screaming at you at the top of their lungs. But the yelling is not about the DIs being bullies or going on a power trip. It's just a simple and effective way to get a human being who is not used to performing under stress to take action while being placed in extremely stressful environments. Recruits learn to block out the noise, fear, and stress and just do what they need to do. It's worth noting that during boot camp, no one is ever physically touched by the DIs. The omnidirectional ass chewing is one of the most important parts of onboarding that most militaries go through. And the yelling is one of the most beneficial things at Marine Corps that DIs can do for a young recruit. Not everyone can become a Marine, and no one should be forced into it. It takes a special kind of person who can deal with the yelling, sleep deprivation, physical and mental challenges, and isolation from friends and family. But for those who are up for the challenge, boot camp is what transforms them into Marines. This is how Marines are made. Oh, wait a second. Does yelling and screaming actually work? Well, we're gonna do our own experiment. Hit like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Now that is science.